very welcome to our webinar on regulatory challenges. And yeah, today our topic is regulatory challenges, encountering and working with laws and regulations. I think that's a big topic for all of you. We have been having these one-on-ones in the beginning of our work in Work Package 6, and we heard from many sides that this is really a topic some of you are struggling with, some of you are also involved in making them. So I think that's an interesting approach. So to have a bit of an intro into, the topic of regulatory challenges, I wanted to bring something up that's been, on our minds in the food team at ICLEI a lot, which is the Sustainable Food Systems Law. Many of you might have heard that this law, it was part of the Farm to Fork strategy, and it's how Eurectiv is saying it's dead. And instead, there is a strategic dialogue now. And I wanted to bring in this example because I wanted to say, it's so difficult to make laws and to make policies, especially when we go from the bottom up and not top down, but really bring people together. This law is going to be turned into strategic dialogues, and the law had entailed sustainable labeling framework, a systems approach that was really new and really exciting because it would entail all kinds of things. So the interlinkages between agriculture, sales, processing, health, and societal impacts, all kinds of guidelines on public food procurement. And von der Leyen actually said, that the problem we are facing is really with polarization in the end. And I just wanted to highlight that what we are doing here in our webinars is really encountering polarization and speaking to each other, speaking to different stakeholders in the food system. And so I think it's a great thing that we're doing. And also I'm very much looking forward to hearing how you deal with policies and how you work through multi-stakeholder engagement to make them happen.
So thanks for having the opportunity to share some of the work and thoughts we have. And I want to share with you some of the ideas that Joanna and the colleagues from ICLEI suggest us to talk. So what is our business or business forms we have and the evolution of this and why we change from one to another. Also, I want to share with you some of the policies that are enabling or hampering our work, and especially the Catalan food waste prevention law, and why we believe it's good for us to having a specific law and regulation on this. And also some of the work we do on advocacy to set up specific regulations or law in relation to gleaning. So Espigolados, we were born in 2014 as an association. At that time, there were 3 people, as an entrepreneurship. It was an entrepreneurship idea. Is most in the UK would be a social business, social economical business. But here in Spain, we don't have these forms. So we start as an association. And in 2018, we changed into foundation. The reasons was that as the work we were doing with donations, it was more appropriate here to have the foundation legally formed for the donation certificates to the companies and the farmers where we were collaborating with. We are still the legal form of a foundation, but in 2021, our work in the central kitchen where we were we are employing people at risk, and we are making different food preserves, vegetable pâtés, marmalades. It had much sense to have a different legal form. And now we are a social integration company, which here in Spain, it should be from a non-for-profit organization. And it can have different regulatory and specific grants to employ people, to have an integration, people hired, to make all the accompaniment to the people, etc. So this is our case. We know that there are different options, like being a cooperative, being an association, different legal forms. The case here in Spain for us is we found it like using the different legal forms for the work we are doing. In relation to specific regulations and guidelines, from the beginning, the gleaning activity in Catalonia was not was old-fashioned, no? So it is nothing new. It was a very traditional activity, but here it was lost. So there were not a protocol and a standard how to carry out the gleaning activity, and the farmers and farmers union were quite a bit scared to moving people from the cities to the farms. So from the beginning, the idea was to make it very organized, very protocolized, with protocols, with standards, everything very clear. And in fact, we asked and we advocated to include the gleaning activity as a definition and having a specific regulation in the Catalan law. Meanwhile, we were advocating to having this activity regulated. We were working with the Catalan government, the agricultural department, to have specific guidelines on how to carry out the gleaning activity. Because there was different doubts from the farmers, but also from the volunteers and also from the entities, the social entities that were receiving the food. So we started a new activity, so to say, and everyone is looking at us, no? And we believe that we had to do it very in an appropriate manner, in very serious manner, so to say. So we developed this guideline with the support of the Catalan government on how to carry out a safe gleaning. We have a short summary in English, it's the one I share here with you, and we have the long version in Catalan and Spanish, where we include other chapters. But in summary, what we are describing here is all the steps that any entity that wants to carry out the gleaning in Catalonia, but also it can be useful for the other colleagues in Europe, what are the steps they had to carry out, and all the regulatory or norms they have to follow for that. They are, we suggest, but some of the norms are they are obligated to follow. So there are different chapters on the volunteering plan, on the agreement with farmers, on the different insurance policies we have to have, what are the agreements with food redistribution service we have to also have in place, all the materials we have to carry out, the training to the volunteers, the destination of the food, and of course the traceability of the product. Now I don't want to extend on my explanation, but only to highlight that, for example, we have agreements signed with producers, so we are not entering to any farm with the agreement signed, a legal agreement which has been supervised by the Catalan government and also by the Farmers Union. Also, we have all the insurance, the social responsibility insurance to enter into the farms, also the insurance for the volunteers. And we also make different meetings with also works departments, legal departments on the Catalan government to make very clear what we can do, what we cannot do under the regional laws, because it was something new that we wanted to do very regularly, not from one to another. So in fact, now we are gleaning almost every day. So we need to be very sure on what are the laws that are influencing our activity. So we have all these farmers agreements, all the insurance. Also, we have all the traceability we have to have, all the name of the farmers we are gleaning, what is the product that we are gleaning, and what is the destination of the gleaned product. On the other hand, we have agreements and formal agreements with the entities who are receiving this food, because at the end we are organizing the volunteer activity, picking the food, but afterwards we are redistributing it to a specific food bank or food pantry. In relation to volunteers, we have different laws, specific voluntary laws that from other meetings in Forume are different. We are influenced by, and we have to have a volunteering plan, and insurance for volunteers, and all people who is participating in a gleaning has to be covered under our insurance. So we need specific information from them, and if we don't have it, they cannot participate. We can do it with kids, but so all the permissions we have to have, it's very clear from our side, from the other of our network of collaborators. Moreover, not only we developed this guideline on how to carry out the gleaning, but the food safety department from the Catalan government asked to implement and to write a specific hygiene guideline to carry out and to manage the food that we were gleaning and we were redistributing to the food pantries. We did it in collaboration with the Food Safety Department and the biggest farmers union. It's a very short guideline. It's 8 pages or 10 only, but it's very targeted to the specific management and what are the hygiene protocols which are affecting to the gleaning activity in relation to the every farmer's activity. It's nothing new, any regulation new, but to clarify for all the entities who want to carry out the gleaning, what are the specific things or steps they have to take into consideration. So just to clarify it in the introduction of the guideline, I just copy-pasted one sentence of the introduction. So in the Catalan law, the cleaning activity is considered as a non-for-profit activity. So all the product must have to be donated to entities. At the beginning of our Espigolados activity, we were also introducing part of the glean product to our central kitchen, or there were some little experiences selling afterwards the gleaning. But because of these conversations with farmers, farmer unions, and the food sector, we all agreed, also Espigolados, that the gleaning activity must be under the non-for-profit sphere. So all the documents is referring to this for non-for-profit. This is in parallel with the advocacy and all the drafts on the Catalan law. So in 2020, 1 week before the COVID lockdown, we finally achieved to have a specific food waste and food law prevention law in the Catalan Parliament that we've been working for 2 years. So different occasions, and at the end we achieved to have this law, which we believe it's very innovative in Europe and in the world because it has an holistic approach, considering from the farm to fork and also the social entities, is prioritizing the prevention among redistribution, comparing to the French one or the Good Samaritan law. And it's setting up specific obligations for food companies, as for example, having a specific plans for prevention where they have to quantify and report what are they doing to prevent food loss and food waste. They have to measure and report to the government the specific quantities on food losses and food waste. They have to follow the hierarchy. And also it includes the gleaning, it included the gleaning activity and how to regulate the gleaning. So this is also some obligations the administration have, So they have to have a specific plan. They have to support with money and with all the resources, all the obligations that the food entities have, because of the law. And they have to have a creation information system, which they are designing right now. And if we are lucky, we will have it at the beginning of next year. So on the gleaning, I just copy-pasted the specific text that I won't be on detail now. But on the gleaning, we achieved that the law asked for the regulation of the gleaning activity. In 2020, we were very optimistic that it would be very regulated. Now, from the drafts we've received, it's not so far. So it will be more open than we expected. But it's good at the end that it should be regulated, and some of the specific ways on how to carry out the activity are included. And finally, in Spain, we've been working with different social entities because there was a draft on a specific law very similar to the Catalan one, but we were missing some specific points. Sadly, the process has been stopped, and we don't know when it will be recovered again. But we believe as an entity that we should have this advocacy, and have the specific laws and regulations because we are doing activities that are not so well regulated or understood by all the food system stakeholders, and it's more positive than negative having specific protocols and norms and regulation. However, we are not sure if it can hamper our activity. So it's one of the challenge we have. So we believe on the necessity on specific laws and regulations because so far under our road to arriving here, it has helped us. However, we understood that some of these regulations can stop or can be an obstacle sometimes for innovation or creativity. So it's the debate for the afterwards on the parallel sessions. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Raquel, for this great input. We have some more time than usual for some Q&A, and so I would open the Q&A now. Does any of you have a question?
Yeah, it's just a point of clarification, really. You mentioned that the products it's got to be not for profit, but I was wondering whether does that mean you can't make products to sell, or you can make products to sell but the profits have to go back into the not for profit?
Yeah, so this is the debate that we still don't know the final answer. So it was very debated within the drafting of the law. At the end, on the final version of the Catalan law, it was not written in a way or another. They only said that the gleaning was a non-for-profit activity. So in the regulation that it's gonna be finally published, we expect it on January or February next year, so 4 years or after the law. We saw some of the drafting saying that if we have the agreement of the farmer, we can transform it and sell it. But we are not sure what is the opinion and the pressures the government has received on having this. So nowadays, what we are doing is in our central kitchen, where we transform food that's gonna be food surpluses other ways, we are buying this product as any other food industry. And all the product we are gleaning, we are redistributing for free. But it's true, it's one of the main points of debate. So is this helping us? We believe it is helping because we did it in agreement with farmers and farmers union. So they were quite scared on the introduction of the food again on the system, on the regular supply chain. So as we don't have so big impact, we found these other paths, so we buy the product, it's okay because now we have a certain size and we're more stable than at the beginning. So we will have to figure it out. We don't know for sure behind the Catalan law what we can do it. In the Spanish law, in the draft of the Spanish law, it was very clear forbidden. So because of different food sector pressures, so all the social entities were pressuring to say or to add a specific text saying that if the project is not for profit, not that there's not a monetary flows, is that if the project is not for profit, then allow this food waste prevention to happen, But as it stopped and we don't have any other framework to follow, we will see in Catalonia how we will proceed next year.
Hi, Raquel. I wanted to ask you, because I read the provisions that were in the law, which I'm really happy to see that it actually came through, because I'm happy to say that I was invited to speak about it in Barcelona. So I'm super happy to see that it came in fruition. But I saw what was written about cleaning, which must be one of the very, very few laws in the world actually to say something about gleaning, I think. But it was really, from what I managed to read, it's just setting the framework, right? It's saying that we should do it, and the Catalonian government should do something about it. Are you any close to specifications about it? Are you currently speaking with the government about it? What's the case?
Yeah, so what we
Yeah,
achieve is to include the definition of gleaning, which gleaning means collecting food that has remained in the fields after the main harvest or from unharvested planted crops with prior authorization from the owner for harvesting it. So it's quite broad, but target to the to the topic. On the Spanish law, we suggested some little changes based on our experience, but mostly the idea was to include the gleaning definition as well as in the Catalan law. On the gleaning regulations, we achieved to have this 6 points or 6 points, but very broad, but target, for example, the terms and conditions, the solitary economy entities and enterprise. But however, based on the conversations, we will have very different conversations during these 4 years period. So at the beginning, they stopped the regulator activity based on COVID situation, pandemic, etc. They started the work. They stopped it because of the Spanish law, because the Spanish law would affect the Catalan. And now that we don't have the Spanish law, they reactivated again. Sadly, is what I shared. We believe that we were gonna have a very specific regulation on how to glean. At the end, all the legal departments on the agricultural department are at saying to us that it's not possible because they don't have any precedent, mispractices that we should start. And so far we know it will be more volunteering label than specific obligations. This is the bad part for us and the lost opportunity. But we have at least these six orientation points. So if you have any specific regulation mispractices on your countries, we made it a report for them for many pages on the mispractices, the problems, and why we believe it was necessary to regulate very carefully the gleaning. But all the legal departments say it was not enough. So on the advancements, or in Greece or within Cultivate, we have more information. It's more power for us to pressure and to advocate for specifications.
Sorry, have you been in touch maybe with Leket in Israel?
No.
I got to know him in 2013. This is one of the best food saving organizations in the world, hands down. It's called Leket Israel. So they are everything that we do in one. It's a food bank, it's Borume, it's Espigoladores, it's everything. And what they've been doing with gleaning is just amazing. And because they've been doing it for many, many years, I met them 10 years ago, and they're already super experienced. I'm wondering whether they have been, more advanced in terms of putting what they're doing every day all over Israel into law. So check it out, because this might be very interesting for you.
Okay, thanks, Alex. So, but having laws and regulation is the other side of the coin. So it can also stop for doing different innovative things. So now, today, I'm not sure if it's good, that we don't have very specific regulation so far. So I'm having opposite things, thoughts.
Raquel, I was wondering, you had this great guide there, and I was really wondering, and also about all these laws, how do you communicate with people beforehand? Or is there like any process of co-designing these guidelines and laws? And could you share a bit about that?
Yes, of course. So from the beginning of Espigoladores, we were very co-designing the gleaning activity with farmers because we believe it cannot be in another way. So we need them. And so because of this, in agreement with them, we've been evolving, the activity and our ideas also. So the guideline from how to do a safe gleaning was co-designed with farmers, but also with all the specific departments from the Catalan government, the job department, the volunteer department, the agricultural department, because they we were influenced, and we are influencing for many regulations, not that maybe we are not aware of. On the hygiene protocol, of course, with Farmers Union again, and on the law, we are working also on the Spanish law. We are advocating and working in hand-to-hand with Farmers Union and Farmers Organization to pressure and to put pressure that it's not only a non-for-profit organization crazy ideas, is that the food sector and farmers believing on this. So in fact, for the Spanish law that they were not include the gleaning activity, we make some statements with the biggest Spanish farmers unions and organizations asking together to include the gleaning, because if not, which is not included in the law, would be like a black box again from the food system. So of course it's harder, no, to make it in collaboration, but it's more rich in terms of no thoughts, ideas, and the final output.
Yeah, I imagine so. Thank you so much for your answer. Okay, Matteo, you're up. We're very much looking forward to your presentation, and Jasmine is going to share the screen for us.
Thank you, Jasmine. Thank you, Joanna. Okay, thank you very much. Thank you for inviting me over. And this is the first time I'm with you for the webinars, and this is the first time that Comune di Milano is presenting. So I'm very thrilled to share it with you. Most of you has already learned how the local food hubs in the city of Milan works, because whoever was present at the kickoff meeting had the opportunity to hear it from Teresa and Elisa's first-hand voices, which are more competent than me, but I'm very excited to report it. Because it's the first time, I would like to introduce, in the next slide, I would like to introduce what the local food hub is about. This is a picture that depicts the function that the food hub has in the city of Milan, which is more or less what you are all doing in your food banks activities. The food bank system is up in the city of Milan, in the region Lombardy, and in Italy, as well as in Europe, for many years. But what it does is to recreate a full-scale industrial logistic and redistribution hub. So it works at regional and national level. And what Hub di Quartiere, or local hub, does is to recreate it at local scale. When I say local scale, I mean neighbors. So a city neighbors scale food bank. This is entitled that the efficiency increase because you can have a daily distribution of food, and you can have more source of food and differentiate your source of food, and you can have a grasp on the local needs more, quickly, and so you have a better knowledge of the surroundings you are actually serving. So technically, a local food hub works as a collector of food from different sources, from supermarkets, for company canteens, or other wholesale markets or green grocery markets, to collect it and to redistribute it straight away to beneficiaries. So what a local hubs does better than a full-scale food bank is to differentiate the source of food income, because it's a quicker and faster approach and access to sources which are located in the same area of the city. So you don't need big transport, you don't need logistic facilities, but you have a quicker and functional way of store it and redistribute it. In fact, you have a lot of supermarkets that already insist in the same area, that actually collaborate with the local food hubs better than the full-scale food bank systems. And so far for the company canteens and for the greengrocer. So the organization of the food hubs is classical. So you have all the equipment you need to store and redistribute it. And then you have the relationship with the end users, which in most of the case in the standard system are organizations or charities or non-for-profit organizations that actually assist families and individuals. But in other cases, there are social markets developed inside the hub specifically. So people can go directly there, beneficiary can go there and access this donated food via those voucher or food stamps or different systems that the organization develops that make them more proactive in the provision of their food. So they have the experience that they have in the common supermarkets, but so they can choose your own products, and they are responsible for what they actually choose, use, and consume at home. So this is the basic function of the local food banks, and in the 2022 only, it serves in 6 hubs in the city, 3,500 families with 41 retailers and food donors includes, and collecting 177 tons of food that were destined to waste. So in the next slide, I would like to show you the geographical distribution in the city. So the map you see on the right-hand side of the slide is the sectorial division of the city of Milan that is administratively divided into 9 different sectors. And so far we cover 5 of these sectors. So the idea is to cover the whole scale of the city with a specific food bank, and now we're covering 5, but more are coming. Well, I will show you in the further of this conversation. So what is important to say now in terms of organization, meaning governance and regulatory aspects, is that, of course, the governance of this full-scale policy has to face from the fact that you need several actors to develop a food bank. So you have a management organization, which is typically a non-for-profit organization. And so you have a funding partner, and then you have the space that will function as a hub, and then you have the promoters of the full-scale policy. So in every of these hubs, you have all these layers of participants that make them function, and they manage their hub in different ways. So as long as the general framework is compelled, the manager of this hub can organize his space in the most functional way according to their experiences and to their local agreements with the other stakeholders. So this is very interesting to me because I'm visiting them all. I find out a very complex sustainability plans and very different and diverse sustainability plans that those hubs have according to their own resources and to the network, to the capacity to develop their own local networks. For example, if you have in the first column at the center, gestore means obviously the management organization, and you have several different management organization that activate their own network of food donors and beneficiaries in a very different way. Some develops the hub system, which is the collecting and redistribution to organizations. Some other add up the social market, and some other add up a third layer of complexity, which is the integration with other social and welfare policies. I won't go to any of them because it's a too long process, but it's interesting that according to their own mission, every single manager can develop these 3 layers of complexity in their own app. The second level of stakeholder is the funding organization, because is your experience, as you know better than I do, that the more food you collect, the more money you need to manage it. So they need strong partnership and fundraising activities to keep the hub going. Then you need a physical space. So you need a partner to manage your physical space. That sometimes is a concession from the city of Milan. Other times a concession from other organizations that want to chip in and participate in the local hub development. Okay, this is in a nutshell, the organization of the spatial organization of the city. But when we talk about the full-scale city policy, we need to also take into consideration the geographical distribution of the impact in the city. And just to be fair, the city of Milan wanted to develop, start with one food hubs for each municipalities, which is the administrative portion of the city. So in the next slide, I would like to draw your attention on the regulatory challenges of the city of Milan to implement, enforce, and develop the local hubs policy, which starts from the political will, of course, and then the policy framework, and then the city alliance, the physical space, and the resource management. Not all of them entails hardcore regulations, but also advocacy and engagement throughout different engagement strategies and policies. So you don't have for all of these steps, you don't have hard regulations, but also soft regulation and let's say moral suasion activities that the city of Milan wanted to enforce a zero waste policy in the city of Milan. So in the next slide, I would like to point out what was necessary since the beginning to create a full-scale policy, which was the political will. As you know, the city of Milan is a direction, is a city department which is devoted to food policy. And this was the legacy of the Expo 2015 that was all about food as a means to save the planet. But the city of Milan wanted to follow up with the promises that were made in the 2015 Expo, creating a department which overlooked the full food policy sector. And I think the political will was the beginning of all the specific policies that the city of Milan could actually enforce aftermath. So to make the city food system more sustainable with a multidisciplinary and participatory approach needs to identify the production of food waste among its priorities. So this was prioritized. So in the next slide, I want to point out that a policy framework was needed. So the most responding actors in the city of Milan in terms of zero waste policies were Politecnico of Milan, that took the scientific aspect and the impact measurement of the eventual policies, and Assolombarda, which is the representative body of corporate industry in the region. This memorandum of understanding, this is the regulatory tools that the city of Milan designed to create a space of cooperation that create what was the further local hub policy. So in the next slide, we jump to the City Alliance and the journey, how it was built. And Teresa, which I welcome in this chat, in the conversation, witnessed and actually was a real promoter of the City Alliance. And this is very important to make the process transparent and participatory. So the City Alliance was launched through an open call for participants where manifestation of interest was promoted and was actually well received from all the organizations in the city. The open call for participants was dedicated to non-for-profit organizations that were requested to be the organizer and the manager of the apps, but obviously includes also their networks. because we needed since the beginning also a network of donors and a network of beneficiaries organizations. So bringing together the proposal for organizations, it also implied that the local networks were drawn into the systems. So this was the open call for participants that end up in the selection of the 5 hubs that were activated in the further 5 years. So in the next slide, I would like you, thank you very much. I would like you to draw the attention of what is one of the most important aspects of the local apps implementation, which is the physical space. As I mentioned before, and the physical space is very important. First for the technical functionings of the apps, but also for the geographical distribution in the city. That was meant since the beginning to cover the whole cities and to be more efficient and to create a proper network covering the whole city. So the physical spaces were assessed. So it was issued an accommodation availability procedure that the city of Milan centrally promote to all the municipality, all the 9 municipalities in the city, drawing into the discussions not only public spaces, but also private spaces that were eventually made available for the food hubs. And this is the second step of these regulatory challenges, because we needed also the procedure to recruit all these spaces and then to agreed on the usage of that. So the next step that I would like to record with you is the resource management. Although the 5 existing hubs comply with a common protocol coordinated by the City of Milan, the sustainability strategy is individual and relies also on a pre-existing regulatory framework. For example, there were a few general law, state law that I can mention that can allow incentivizing the food donation and tax exemption, incentivizing donation and tax deductions, and incentivizing volunteering, or incentivizing corporate volunteering. I mean, Raquel before mentioned the Good Samaritan law. In fact, in Italy was promoted back in 2003, and this is a good incentive for example, prepare food from food canteen to donate their own prepare food, which is added value and are very specific for local food bank system donation, because it's ready-made and is added value food they can consume the same day in the city. But this law allowed the recipient organization to be made accountable at the same level as the final consumers and incentivize them, the company to donate without incur in legal responsibilities binding in the usage of this food. For example, there is the 2016 under 16 law, the so-called Legge Gada, that also promoted the donation of food from supermarkets. And according to the law, there are 5 different areas where this donation is regulated. But I just want to mention the tax deductions on waste tax that is allowed to the company that actually donates, so they can deduct tax on waste management, and they also can deduct VAT. So this is a state law that enable local players to jump in to adhere to the local hubs program more, volunteering.
Sorry to cut you, Matteo. We're running out of time and going to the Q&A soon. So it would be great.
Okay, the last one. And that was also the, I want just to mention the another law, the 2017 reform on the third sectors, which is also end up in a new codification of non-for-profit activities that enlarge the notion of third sector activities, from social services to general interest, and to enlarge commons and to include commons into the specific object of this law, enabling more actors to be qualified as non-for-profit organization. So this was the general framework and the process that the Comune di Milano went through. And I just want to inform you that the second phase of the local hubs has been just launched by the City of Milan, enforcing the existing hubs, opening new hubs in the city, so covering more of the geographical areas. And the integration with food markets is also required. And table of co-designing is been opened recently, and it will be going on until January. Okay, thank you very much for your patience, and
Thank you, Matteo. That was super interesting. And also, I think we're all looking forward to our last webinar with you, because then Milan, the food waste hubs, are going to share about this scaling up journey that you just mentioned. So stay tuned for our last webinar with Matteo again. So I want to open the Q&A. Is there any questions from the audience right now? Yes, Alexander, please go ahead.
Hi, Matteo. Thank you for the presentation. It was really nice. You mentioned at some point in a slide about the famous Italian law, which we all know and love. You mentioned something about what the two last bullets, if I recall correctly, were about incentivizing volunteering and incentivizing corporate volunteering. Can you elaborate on that? Do you know more about that? Because I'm having huge problems with this in my own beloved country here.
Thank you, Alex. So the corporate, well, I didn't mention corporate volunteering, but volunteering altogether, because the new code on the third sector actually specify the role of volunteering in an organization, and also funds volunteering activity in organization. So there are, two ways that volunteer and encourage, because of third sector's organization can apply for fundings that extend their volunteers' engagement, and specifically for young volunteers. And this is under our regional call for proposals that allow organizations to ask fundings for including more volunteers in their organizations. So this is the state law that promoted the reform of the third sectors that planned some money for organizations and other third sectors bodies to fund their extending volunteering activities. And so there is also a detailed regulation on those aspects of volunteering inclusion, like how much per diem it's possible for reimbursement of volunteering expenses, for the insurance of volunteering participants, and so on. It's much more detailed, but I'm referring more on the reform of the third sectors, the law 117/2017, rather than 2016 law, so-called Legge Gadda that you all loved.
Thank you so much. I see Oriol with his hand up. Please go ahead.
Hi. I know that the Italian law, the legal framework about food waste is based in a concept of Samaritanian law. I think it's more or less as what we study about this legal framework. I don't know if, for example, in the restaurants, this kind of regulations allows that the food surplus could be redistributed to the social entities, because here we are some confusion about that. It is not clear, because the law prefers, because it's based in a prevention way, as Raquel said us before, prefers to give the food surplus to customers, for example, and to prepare the restaurants to do that. They have to be prepared to do this surplus. I don't know if in Italy there is this practice is allowed, so restaurants can distribute this food to social entities, And then, and I don't know if in Italy there is some possibility to sell this food surplus that, for example, that is generated in supermarkets or restaurants to fund social projects.
Thank you very much for this question. And Teresa, if you're there, I know you can provide your expertise into this. But first of all, it's in our system, in the hub system, is not allowed to sell food. In fact, what I mentioned before, the social market activities, which is developed in some of the hubs, doesn't sell things, but provide food to its individual clients, individual and families through a program, which is a kind of score credit program. So every participant is allowed to use part of his voucher or card or food stamp, as you want to call it, and according to their own needs. But there is a limit, which is set preventively, and the limit, it occurs on a specific standards, which is the level of needs the single person or the family have, the number of people in the family, and blah, blah, blah. But they don't use their own money, so there is no sales involved. There is also a distribution of food, which is organized individually with this score credit system. So it's not sold. On the other hand, you mentioned the distribution from restaurants, which is regulated. We are not actually recover food from restaurants, only from company canteens, and is regulated by the Good Samaritan law. So whoever is doing it in the city of Milan, within or outside the local hubs, has to comply with the regulations that are put in place, which is very strict in the hygiene and food and safety regulations, and they cannot withdraw food which is already been served, for example. So they have to comply with this regulation, which are very strictly on the way you actually conserve, pre-prepared food, and you actually transport pre-prepared food, and you deliver pre-prepared food. And there is a strict regulation to comply with, to make use of the Good Samaritan law, and to withdraw from actual producer of prepared food.
For now, I want to thank our two speakers for being here, and want to end the webinar for the participants from outside the FSIs. Thank you so much for being here, and have a great day.